The voice that floats through every classic rock playlist. That swirling, witchy, timeless voice, belonging to a woman who seems made of moonlight and scarves. Stevie Nicks has spent 5 decades looking like she stepped straight out of a fairy tale. But behind the tambourines and the top hats lies a story so raw that even now, at 77, she still tears up when certain names come up. She's called one lost love, the great passion of my life, admitted another romance forced her into the hardest decision she ever made, and spent years chasing escape in a way that almost erased her completely. Tonight we're pulling back the velvet curtain on the confessions Stevie herself says still keep her awake, the ones about addiction that nearly ended everything, the heartbreak with 2 rock legends that changed the course of her life, and the quiet sacrifices almost no one noticed until she finally spoke them out loud. It's a story of almosts, almost a family, almost staying clean, almost dying, and the one man she swears she'll love until her final breath. Let's start at the very beginning, when the girl with the golden voice still believed love could fix anything. Before the world ever heard the name Stevie Nicks, there was just Stephanie Lynn, a shy teenager in Northern California who fell hard for a quiet guitarist named Lindsey Buckingham. They met in high school, sang together at parties, and by 1971, they had dropped out of college, moved in together, and released an album as Buckingham Nicks. It was beautiful, it was broke, and it was the only life either of them wanted. They made a pact. No kids, no distractions, just the music. Lindsey told her straight up, if we have a baby, the dream dies. Stevie agreed because she believed him, believed in them. Years later, she would look back and call it the first time she put the dream before her heart. When Fleetwood Mac came calling in 1974, it felt like destiny. The catch? The band only wanted Lindsey until he refused to join without Stevie. So the couple stepped into the biggest soap opera in rock history. Affairs, breakups, and enough drama to fill 3 albums. On stage, they sang to each other like lovers. Off stage, they were already tearing each other apart. That's when the cocaine walked in. At first, it was just a little bump to get through the endless touring. Then it was the only thing that made the screaming matches with Lindsey bearable. By the time Rumours hit #1, Stevie was snorting so much she burned a hole in her septum the size of a dime. She laughed it off in interviews, called it the devil's dandruff, but inside she was terrified. The girl who once thought love could fix anything was now depending on a completely different powder to get through the day. And while all of this was exploding, another rock star on the other side of Los Angeles was about to turn her entire world upside down. 1977. Fleetwood Mac is the biggest band on the planet, and Stevie is suddenly the most photographed woman in rock. One night after a show, Don Henley from the Eagles spots her across a crowded party and decides right then that he has to know her. Within weeks, he's sending private jets to wherever she is, just so they can spend a few stolen hours together. It was electric. Henley was charming, funny, already a superstar himself, and for once, Stevie wasn't the only one in the room who understood what it felt like to live under that kind of spotlight. They'd disappear into hotel suites for days, writing songs, laughing, falling deeper than either of them expected. Then came the positive test. Stevie has never hidden what happened next. She made the choice to end the pregnancy, and she spent 45 years explaining why. Fleetwood Mac was still fragile, the Rumours tour was relentless, and she truly believed a baby would have shattered everything they'd bled for. In her words, she said, "If I'd kept that child, there would be no more Fleetwood Mac, no more music, no more me on stage. I would have been a great mother, but the world would have lost what I was put here to do." Don supported her decision at the time, but the loss sat between them like a ghost. They tried to keep the romance going, even recorded the duet Leather and Lace a few years later. But every time Stevie sang those lyrics about lovers who can't quite make it work, you can hear the ache. The flame that once burned so bright quietly flickered out. She thought that was the deepest cut love could give her. She was wrong, because 4 years later, she met the one man she says she was supposed to grow old with. And this time, the enemy wasn't fame. It was something far more dangerous. 1983. Stevie is 35, freshly solo with Belladonna ruling the charts, and she's convinced she'll never feel that thunderbolt again. Then she walks into a hotel bar in Australia during a joint Eagles-Fleetwood Mac tour stop, locks eyes with Joe Walsh across the room, and everything stops. Joe later said it was like recognizing someone he'd known in another life. Stevie's version is simpler. I fell in love with him the second I saw him. They spent the entire night talking, finished each other's sentences, laughed at the same dark jokes. By sunrise, they were making promises neither of them had ever made before. She told friends, "I can never be far from this person again." He called her his gypsy queen and meant it. For the first time in years, the cocaine didn't feel like the main character in her story. Joe did. They moved fast, shared houses, shared stages, shared secrets. When they performed together, the chemistry was so thick you could feel it through the speakers. Fans still hunt down bootlegs of those nights because the way they looked at each other was almost too private to watch. Stevie started dreaming out loud about a future, maybe slowing down, maybe a house in the desert, maybe even the family she'd spent her life saying she didn't want. Joe never laughed at those dreams. He just held her tighter. But both of them were carrying something heavier than love into that relationship, and it was only a matter of time before it caught up with them. What nobody outside their inner circle fully grasped was that Stevie and Joe weren't just in love, they were twin flames feeding the same fire. Both of them were deep into cocaine, both of them were drinking like the world might end at sunrise, and together they turned the volume up instead of down. There were nights when hotel rooms looked like war zones, mirrors covered in powder, bottles everywhere, and the two of them laughing like nothing could touch them. Stevie later admitted they were doing so much that blackouts became normal. She'd wake up in a different city with no memory of the show she'd apparently just played. Joe wasn't far behind. His own stories from that era are full of wrecked cars and missed planes. The scariest moment came one night in 1984 when Stevie collapsed on the bathroom floor of their suite in Chicago. Joe found her, thought she was gone, and carried her to the bed screaming her name until she finally opened her eyes. Instead of that being the wake-up call, they just did another line and promised each other they'd be more careful next time. Joe started having nightmares that one morning he'd find her cold beside him, or that she'd open her eyes to him gone. He told a friend, "We're on the Titanic and we keep ordering more champagne." The love was still there, blazing, but it was tangled up in something that was clearly trying to kill them both. And then, out of nowhere, Joe made the decision that broke her heart in a way no one else ever had. One morning in 1986, Joe woke up, looked at Stevie still asleep beside him, and felt something snap inside his chest. Not anger, not a fight, just cold, clear terror. He later said, "I realized that if we stayed together, one of us was going to die, and the other would have to live with it." He didn't argue, he didn't leave a long letter. He packed a single bag, kissed her forehead while she was still sleeping, and flew to Australia without telling a soul where he was going. When Stevie woke up, the house was empty, the phone lines were dead, and Joe Walsh had vanished from her life like smoke. She called everyone they knew. No one had answers. For weeks, she walked around in a daze, wearing his old shirts, playing his guitar, waiting for the phone to ring that never did. Years later, she told Oprah, "That was the most painful breakup I ever went through. He was the one. I know he was the one." Joe stayed gone for almost a year. When he finally resurfaced, sober and quiet, he gave interviews saying Stevie had been like a sister to him. Those words crushed her all over again. She fired back in private to friends, "Sister? I was going to have his babies." Publicly, she stayed graceful, but every time Edge of 17 performance from that era onward carries an extra layer of ache if you know the story. She swore she would never love like that again, and for a while she almost kept that promise. But the damage inside her body and her heart was piling up faster than anyone realized. By the end of the 1980s, Stevie's body was sending distress signals she could no longer ignore. The hole in her nose had become a permanent scar. She was stuffing tissue up there before every show to stop the bleeding. Her hair was falling out in clumps from the chemicals. Doctors told her if she kept going, she had maybe 5 years left, tops. In 1986, she finally checked in to the Betty Ford Center. But the real wake-up call came when a plastic surgeon examined the damage and said, "You've snorted away half your nose. You're going to need reconstructive surgery. And even then, it might collapse." She went through with it anyway, spending weeks in recovery, with her face bandaged, terrified the world would see the real wreckage. Clean for a moment, she thought she had it handled. Then a well-meaning psychiatrist prescribed Klonopin for anxiety, and within months, she was hooked worse than ever. By 1993, she was taking up to 20 pills a day just to feel normal. She looked puffy, distant, like a ghost of the Gypsy Queen fans adored. Friends begged her to get help again. In 1994, she agreed to a 47-day detox that involved a medically induced coma, essentially putting her brain to sleep while the drugs left her system. When she woke up, she cried for 3 days straight, not from pain, but from finally feeling everything she'd numbed for 20 years. That same year, her beloved mother Barbara told her, "You've been gone a long time, baby. Welcome home." It was the first time Stevie believed she might actually stay. She poured the grief into the wild heart and later into songs like "Has Anyone Ever Written Anything for You?" written for Joe Walsh and every other ghost she carried. She rebuilt, slowly, fiercely, on her own terms. But even after clawing her way back, the universe wasn't finished taking pieces of her heart. Decades later, Stevie Nicks still stands on stage in her platform boots and black lace swirling like smoke, voice as haunting as ever, and every single night she sings to the men who got away and the life she never quite lived. She has said, more than once, that Joe Walsh will always be the love of her life, the one she measures every other feeling against. She still keeps his old Eagles tour jacket in her closet, still tears up when someone plays Hotel California too loud. Don Henley's name rarely crosses her lips anymore, but when Leather and Lace comes on the radio, she turns it up and lets the ache wash over her for 3 minutes and 41 seconds, the exact length of the song they made together. She never became a mother. She never got the quiet desert house with the white picket fence and the dogs running wild. Instead, she got 7 Grammy nominations, 20 top 40 hits, a spot in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice, once with the band, once on her own, and a legacy that will outlive every single one of us. But if you watch her closely during the final chorus of Landslide, when she sings, "I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I built my life around you," she isn't looking at Lindsey Buckingham anymore. She's looking somewhere farther back, at a hotel room in Chicago, at an empty bed in Los Angeles, at a future that disappeared the morning Joe Walsh flew to Australia without saying goodbye. Stevie Nicks gave the world her magic, her voice, her poetry, and in exchange, the world took almost everything else. And yet, here she is, still spinning in circles under the spotlight at 77, still refusing to let the story end in regret. Because maybe that's the real confession. She wouldn't trade a single broken heart if it meant we never got the songs that came from it. So the next time you hear that unmistakable rasp float out of your speakers, remember the price tag attached to every note. And ask yourself, would any of us be brave enough to pay it? If Stevie's story hit you right in the chest, like it did me, do 3 quick things before you go. Smash that like button. It tells YouTube to show this to every rock fan who needs to hear the real stories behind the legends. Hit subscribe and ring the bell. We drop a brand new Retro Celeb Talk episode every single week. Untold confessions, hidden romances, and the moments that changed music forever. Drop a comment right now. Who was Stevie's true soulmate? Joe Walsh? Don Henley? Lindsey Buckingham? Or maybe someone we still don't know about? I read every single one, and the best comments get pinned. Next week, we're diving into another icon who lost everything to love and came back stronger. You won't believe who it is. Thank you for watching Retro Celeb Talk, where the stars of yesterday still have secrets to spill today. See you in the next one. Keep spinning, gypsies.